Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel once again. I'm Tony, and today we're gonna do the real review of Acqua di Parma Oud. Now, when I say real review, it doesn't mean that anybody else's review is fake. No, what I mean by that is that I purchased this fragrance myself with my own money, so I'm not gonna pledge no allegiance to nobody. There is no brand loyalty. I'm a real consumer just like you. There is no affiliate link so you can click, buy something, and I get some commission. None of that, and most importantly, I am not trying to sell you anything. If I tell you that I like something, that means that I really like it. And if I tell you that I don't like something, that means I really don't like it. And yes, I am 100% ripping off Flossie Carter with that intro. I am in no way, and I repeat, I am in no way, shape or form claiming that I am an expert or that I know more than anyone else in the fragrance community. I'm just gonna share my thoughts and experiences with you so you can decide if you drop your hard-earned money in a bottle of perfume or not. Take my review and really anyone's review with a grain of salt. We all have different perceptions, different skin chemistry, and of course, different taste. So let's get busy. Let's start off with one of the most important aspects when it comes to purchasing a new fragrance, the price. I have a visitor. Hey. Say hi. Now, telling you how much this fragrance costs right now is kind of pointless because if you're watching this video 2, 3, 5 years from now, chances are price is gonna be a little or a lot higher due to inflation. But today you can get this fragrance, the 100 milliliter bottle, for 270 euros. Now, price is always gonna be subjective. There may be some people who may stay up for months just to get this fragrance. And there are some other people who can afford to buy $200, $300, $500 fragrances in a single purchase on a regular basis. So it depends on each people's economy, of course. But in my opinion, the price is TGH, too goddamn high. Now, why am I saying that? Stay tuned for the answer. Is it worth the price? Let's find out. Now, before I go any further, as you can see, this is the new version of the Acqua di Parma Oud that comes in this black bottle in this new collection called the Signatures of the Sun. Previously, this collection was called just Ingredients, and those were presented in a brown bottle. I have to say that I tried the previous version of this. Now, do they smell different? We will talk about that a little bit later. Other than that, I won't be referencing the previous version in this video. Now, let's continue with the notes. According to Acqua di Parma's website, on the top notes, we've got bergamot and orange. On the middle notes, we have mint, Haitian amyris oil, Russian coriander, and agarwood oil, aka the oud. And on the base notes, we have cedarwood, leather accord, patchouli oil, sandalwood, and musk. By the way, this is an EDP concentration, eau de parfum. We have great quality notes in here. Some of them might be natural, some of them might be synthetic, but that's irrelevant. This composition is exquisite, sophisticated, and understated. Now, what do I smell in here? Remember, this is the part of the video that is kind of subjective because what I'm about to tell you is just my perception, and of course it may vary from your perception. So what Acqua di Parma did here was to have their distinct cologne DNA with a slight twist, focusing each composition in a different ingredient, in this case being the oud. When you first spray this, the first thing you're gonna notice is that citrusy base that Acqua di Parma is known for, with some very interesting changes around it. So what I'm smelling here, bright citruses in full power, which gives this fragrance that classic cologne scent profile. Along with that, you get a very salty / marine note, which I think, of course I could be completely wrong, it has to do a little bit with the note of oud. And I also notice a fresh, spicy nuance thanks to the coriander with that gentle pepperiness. This doesn't declare salt nor marine notes. Now, if you're expecting an animalic, skanky, funky oud with fecal, barnyardish facets, this is absolutely not it. First of all, I highly doubt that the oud used in here is natural, but whatever the case is, the oud note is extremely tame. The oud is not in the bottle front of the fragrance. It is actually in the background, acting like a canvas that engulfs this composition, giving it some woody / spicy tamarind properties. And of course, we have a little bit of sandalwood, which this time is not in that classic creamy facet, it's on its dry woody facet. And then in the dry down, you can smell this slightly ambery facet. I think is the amyris, which mixes delightfully with the musk. Now in the dry down, when all the citruses disappear, this doesn't become ambery or musky sweet by any means, but you can definitely smell it. So overall, you have a citrusy, salty, ambery, and slightly musky cologne, which is definitely very different, very elegant, and very unique compared with other colognes on the market. Now I just mentioned some of the notes to highlight some aspects of it. Not all the notes. Of course, you can smell different things, different facets when you get your nose in this, because remember, each nose is a totally different world. Now let's talk about a very important topic for a lot of people, the compliments. If you have seen any of my previous fragrance real review videos, at this point you already know I couldn't care less about the compliments. And it's kind of crazy because a lot of people buy fragrances with the sole purpose of hopefully feeling validated throughout other people's opinion. That's not my case. I'm one of those weird people that wear fragrances just to please myself, and that's it. If some other people like it and I get a compliment, great, thank you so very much, but that's not something that I'm after. Now, with that being said, I have received a very considerable amount of compliments while wearing this thing, mainly from ladies. Now, performance. Let's talk about performance. But first, let me remind you something. Not all atomizers were created equal. Some of them are average, just getting the job done. You got those crappy ones that the bottle of perfume basically just spits when you're applying it on your skin and clothing without the consistent burst of perfume. You got the famous mist atomizer, which this is the case, but you gotta play with them. Each kind of atomizer is not gonna eject the same amount of perfume. And as I said, this one is very good. Now the performance on this fragrance, is like the vast majority of colognes that I've tried. Pretty disappointing, because especially with this one, you truly smell very elegant, unique, and upscaled, but people must be close to you in order for them to notice the smell. Unfortunately, I'm getting 5 hours on average, and sometimes even less than that, spraying this heavily on both my skin and clothing. And I'm talking about 5 to 15 sprays in total. Now projection. Using that amount of sprays, the initial blast is huge. You'll be projecting for about 2 meters for 10 minutes, then you'll have it within your arm's reach for about 1 hour, then you'll have it within your personal bubble, let's say within your elbow's reach for another hour, before it gradually tones down until it becomes a skin scent that unless you're kissing someone, people are not gonna notice that you're wearing perfume. But just like in the real review of Dior Homme cologne, every now and then the fragrance will give some blasts of smell that will linger around the air, and people are gonna notice that delightful smell. Remember, not all fragrances were created precisely with the purpose of being projecting like crazy with a longevity of 12 plus hours. There are more subtle scents that were created precisely with the purpose of being more intimate. But unfortunately with this one, the performance turned out to be disappointing. And once again, that disappointing performance is due to the very volatile nature of the molecules used in this fragrance. They evaporate very fast, and that's the reason of the disappointing performance. And if you happen to have this one or any cologne that doesn't last that long, I highly suggest you to spray heavily on you, because if you spray just twice, not even you are gonna notice. If you spray 4 to 5 times, that's better, but it's not gonna last very much. But if you spray heavily as I do, you are gonna enjoy the fragrance, other ones around you are gonna enjoy the fragrance, and this is not a heavy scent. You're not gonna annoy people if you spray this heavily. And with that advice that I'm giving you, I refer to this specific fragrance. Of course, you have to spray on yourself based on the performance of the fragrance, because if you spray this 10 to 15 times, I mean, that's up to you, but chances are you're gonna annoy people with a smell like this. And if you don't care about annoying people and you say, it's my fragrance, I use it the way I want it, perfect. Do your thing. But keep in mind, there is a time and a place for everything. Now, occasions. This juice is totally versatile. You can wear this all year round. However, as a good cologne, I think this was made to be used in the hotter days of the year and also the hotter nights. Of course, you can pull this off when the sun is up, because After all, this is a cologne. It's very refreshing and it has some twists in the composition, but this still has a cologne DNA. But you can also pull this off at nighttime because of the depth and richness of the other darker ingredients, like the oud, the leather accord that basically I don't smell any leather in here, and the patchouli. Anyway, those darker notes provides. This is sophisticated enough to wear at nighttime. Now, considering what I just said about the performance, you can easily assume that this is not the fragrance that you want to wear when you go out to the nightclub, when there is a lot of people smoking cigarettes and God knows what else, or somewhere in open spaces. You can use this when you're nicely dressed up, or ready to go to a bar to get a cocktail, go to a nice dinner in a nice restaurant, on a date when you're gonna have close interaction with your significant other. Literally, whenever you want to smell classy, but understated, or even when you're fresh out of the shower before going to sleep. Gender, let's go with gender. As you just saw, this is essentially a woody and slightly peppery take on a cologne. I think this fragrance leans a little bit more towards the masculine spectrum. Now, this fragrance doesn't scream macho man, but still in the masculine spectrum. However, if you happen to be a lady that enjoys colognes or fresh woody scents, no one is here to stop you. Do as you please. And finally, age. In my opinion, Acqua Di Parma's focus group is a little bit older people, but not necessarily Bilbo Baggins old. But overall, I think their focus group is mature people. And I'm not gonna say that this is something that an 18-year-old teenage can use, but this doesn't smell outdated. I'm gonna say this is something that you can start using from the age of 30 until the end of your days. So quality, good. Versatility, 7 out of 10. You'll need way more performance to use this in the colder months of the year. Performance, the usual behavior of a cologne. Very disappointing. Compliments, yes. Personally speaking, I only bought this fragrance because I was offered an amazing deal for this 180 milliliter bottle. I already knew that I was gonna like it because, as I said, I used to have the previous version with the brown bottle. Smell-wise, it's pretty much exactly the same. Now, if you're a purist, you may say that they smell completely different, and quite possibly you're also gonna say that the previous version was better and that it also performed better. But in my case, it was not like that. Smells pretty much the same and sadly performs exactly the same. But if I wasn't offered that amazing deal, I wouldn't probably have this in my collection. But as I said, this scent is very unique for a cologne. I really wished the performance was at least average on this one, and I was really hoping for it because on the list of notes this has, seems like a very potent fragrance, even for being a freshie, unlike Dior Homme cologne that literally only has bergamot, grapefruit blossom, and musk. Now, if you have those 3 notes, which are not exactly known for being long-lasting, with the exception of the musk, you cannot really expect to perform insanely. Bergamot, citrus. Citrusy usually don't last that long. Grapefruit blossom, same thing, a slight and not so powerful white floral note. Musk would be the only exception of an ingredient that is long lasting. But with this, you got leather accord, you got patchouli, you got oud. I was really hoping for this to perform way better than Dior Homme cologne. Sadly, this was not the case. And that's why I say the price on this is TGH. The quality is not miles away from the mainstream perfumery, but the price is. I totally understand. A big part of the price you're paying for this is that you're buying luxury and uniqueness when you get a fragrance from a premium or niche brand. But in this case, the performance leaves a lot to be desired. I'm also talking to you, Louis Vuitton. However, I'm glad that I got this amazing deal. And of course, I'm glad that I got this bottle. This is not a loud scent, but if you want to try a fresh, woody, and peppery scent with the classic cologne DNA, maybe you can consider give this a try in your local retail store. And remember, at the end of the day, do whatever you want with your fragrances. No one, and I mean absolutely no one, is entitled to tell you what to do. This is just my opinion, as I stated in the very beginning of the video. Now, if this review was useful to you, I would feel very glad. I would feel very honored. But at the end of the day, do as you please. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it this far, I really hope you found this video useful. So, thank you so much. Tack så mycket. Merci beaucoup. Muito obrigado. Dankeschön. Muchas gracias. Spasiba. Kietos. Grazie mille. Arigatou gozaimasu. See you in the next video.